Hi, everybody. I hope this finds you doing well. I know that this can be a crazy time of year, and I know that you have a lot of decisions coming up and so many things to complete with it being here at the end of the school year. So I wanted to create this video for you guys to just kind of talk through some of the points of the decision-making process for Carnegie credit for 8th grade students that were in high school courses this year at Richards Middle School. So I've got some talking points over here on my computer. I'm going to scroll through those to make sure that I don't forget anything. So if it looks like I'm looking off to the side, I've got sort of my teleprompter here for me. So I know that this is a big decision for some of you. Here at Richards Middle School, we have 4 different courses that students, if they meet criteria to be eligible, they're able to take high school Carnegie credit for these 4 classes that they take here at Richards Middle School. So those classes include algebra, physical science, introduction to digital technology, and then Spanish 1. So 2 content classes and then 2 of our connections classes. If they meet the criteria in order to be eligible, students are able to decide whether or not they want to take the credit for those courses. So I want to give you a little bit of extra information as you're making this decision. So these 4 classes have some different criteria. So I'm going to talk about them in 2 different sections. Okay, so first, I want to talk to you a little bit about science, our physical science class that our 8th graders take in 8th grade. And then our digital technology class. So these 2 courses, the criteria for those courses are basically pretty cut and dry, simple. Basically, if a student passes first semester and second semester of those courses, then they're eligible to take credit for those courses moving into high school. So let's talk specifically about physical science just for a second. One thing that I want to make sure that you guys understand is if your student takes the Carnegie credit for a course that they took here in 8th grade, they are not able to retake that class once they get to high school. So if they take the credit, that class is done and they're moving on to the next level in high school. So physical science is a little bit different because physical science is not a class that our students take in Gwinnett County Public School high schools. So if your student passed both semesters of physical science in their 8th grade year, it would really benefit them to go ahead and take the Carnegie credit for that course, because this is not a course that will build on itself. The next level of science does not build on physical science. And so if there's any gaps in their learning, it's not going to affect their success moving forward. So physical science, and then again with Intro to Digital Technology, a lot of our students do really well in technology, and there's the school bell, so I apologize for that. But Intro to Digital Technology is a prerequisite for them to take the next level of digital technology in high school. But that course is very different. And so if they pass the course in 8th grade, they're going to do well moving on to 9th grade digital technology. So those 2 courses, if a student passes both semesters, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and take the credit. And then that way they go into high school with extra credits in their back pocket. So now let's move on to Algebra 1 and Spanish 1. Those courses are a little bit different as they are foundational courses for the next level of that course in high school. Okay, so if a student is in Algebra 1 here in 8th grade and they kind of struggle and they're just not super strong in it, if they take the credit for it, that means that they move on to the next level of math in high school. And if they're not strong and they're not confident in that, they could really struggle for all 4 years of high school math because their foundation wasn't strong. Okay, so, and the same is to be said for Spanish 2. So Spanish 2 starts getting a lot more difficult and technical in that language learning, the second level. And so if your student is not really confident and strong in Spanish 1, we advise you to not take the Carnegie credit for those 2 courses. Because remember, if you take the credit for Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and then they go to the next level in 9th grade, and a month in, they start feeling like, oh my goodness, this is really difficult. They don't have the option to go back and take Algebra 1 again. The same could be said for Spanish 1. So if your student is not confident and feels like they are ready to move on and then build on that foundation for all 4 years of high school, we really encourage students to not take the Carnegie credit for those 2 classes. The criteria for those 2 classes is also a little bit different. So for Spanish 1 and Algebra 1, the criteria for students to be eligible to accept that credit is they must have earned an 80% or higher for their semester 1 average, their semester 2 average, and also their common assessment average. So their unit tests along the way, they should have scored an average of 80% on those unit tests, showing that they mastered all the sets of content that goes into the whole course itself. So that's the criteria used to determine whether or not a student is eligible to take credit in Algebra 1 or Spanish 1. But just because they're eligible, again, that is a parent-student decision. If you don't feel confident that your student is ready to move on, then take the extra year, have them retake that class next year in 9th grade, get a really strong foundation so that they can be super successful moving on through the rest of their high school. So I hope that this has answered some of your questions and maybe given you a little bit more information as you work to make your decision on whether or not your student takes the Carnegie credit for the high school courses that they were in this year here at Richards. So if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to your student's teacher, or please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Sharon McCoy, and that's MACOY. I'm the 8th grade assistant principal here at Richards. And if you have any questions or need help with this decision, please do not hesitate to reach out. We want to make sure that you make the right choice for you and your student and your family. And we wish you nothing but success moving on in high school. Thank you so much.